Imagine a world where loyalty is a currency and betrayal is the price of power. Welcome to the twisted tale of Carmine the Snake Persico, a man who slithered his way to the top of the criminal underworld. From the gritty streets of Brooklyn to the highest echelons of the Mafia, Persico's life was a masterclass in survival, cunning, and ruthless ambition. Buckle up as we dive into the story of a man who turned betrayal into an art form and kept his iron grip on power, even from behind bars. This is the saga of Carmine Persico, the mobster who gave The Godfather a run for his money. Carmine Persico was one of the most feared and respected mobsters of the Colombo crime family, known as the Snake. His long life was marked by violence, betrayal, and survival in the ruthless world of organized crime. Throughout his criminal career, he survived multiple assassination attempts, led a bloody internal war, and maintained his power even after being sentenced to what was essentially a life sentence in prison. This is the story of the Snake, Carmine John Persico Jr., who was born on August 8, 1933, in the heart of Brooklyn, New York. Carmine Persico Jr. was the son of Carmine John Persico Sr., a legal stenographer who worked for various law firms in Manhattan, and a devoted mother named Assunta Susan Plantamura. He did not seem destined to become a feared and respected figure in the criminal underworld, considering his family led an honest, quiet, and respectable life. However, the streets of Carroll Gardens and Red Hook, where he grew up, had other plans for him. His brothers, Theodore and Alphonse, the latter known as Alley Boy, also felt the call of power and influence. The influence of power drew the Persico brothers together, forging their path in the dark world of the Mafia. While other children played in the streets, the Persico brothers learned the unwritten rules of organized crime. At 16, Carmine left high school, preferring the lessons of the streets over classrooms. He became the leader of a Brooklyn street gang that instilled both fear and respect. Armed with knives and homemade weapons, these young men extorted other neighborhood boys, leaving a trail of intimidation and violence in their wake. At 17, in March 1951, Carmine was arrested for the first time, accused of fatally beating another young man in Prospect Park, Brooklyn. While this incident could have been the end for many, it was just the beginning for him. Despite the serious murder charge, all accusations against him were dropped, an early indication of his ability to evade justice, a skill that would become a constant in his life. In the early 1950s, at approximately 21 years old, Carmine Persico was recruited by the Prohibition crime family, which would later become the Colombo family. This was a remarkably unusual achievement for someone so young in the Mafia world. His entry into the organization was orchestrated by Capo Frank Abbattimaco, who recognized Persico's potential and brutality. Abbattimaco played a crucial role in New York Mafia history as a captain in the Prohibition family, controlling a lucrative illegal lottery operation in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Abbattimaco saw in Carmine several attributes that made him an interesting candidate for the family business. He was determined, astute, and willing to do whatever was necessary to rise through the ranks of organized crime. With Abbattimaco's backing, Persico began to integrate into the Prohibition's criminal structure. He proved to be an effective enforcer and a natural leader, capable of handling both daily operations and conflict situations. With a blend of intelligence and calculated violence, Carmine Persico engaged in various criminal activities during this time, including extortion, robbery, and drug trafficking. He solidified his position and earned a reputation as one of the most feared members of the EZ family. In October 1957, he allegedly participated in one of the most notorious murders of the time, the assassination of Albert Anastasia, the head of the Anastasia family. Anastasia's underboss, Carlo Gambino, coveted control of the family and conspired with powerful allies such as Vito Genovese, the head of the Genovese family, and Joseph Profaci, the head of the Profaci family. Profaci, seeing an opportunity to solidify his own power, supposedly tasked Carmine and the Gallo brothers with eliminating Anastasia. On October 25th of that year, Anastasia entered a barbershop at the Park Sheraton Hotel in Manhattan, unsuspecting of the danger that awaited him. As he settled into the barber's chair, two men with their faces covered by scarves burst in, pushed the barber aside, and opened fire on Anastasia. Surprised and stunned, Albert Anastasia tried to fight back against his attackers, but in his confusion, he ended up striking at the reflections of the gunman in the barbershop mirror. The assassins continued shooting until Anastasia lay dead on the floor. Although no one was officially charged with Anastasia's murder, the involvement of figures like Carmine Persico and the Gallo brothers became part of mafia folklore. Anastasia's elimination allowed Carlo Gambino to take control of the family, marking the beginning of the Gambino era, one of the most powerful families in the history of American organized crime. Alternative theories suggest that gunmen from the Patriarca crime family of New England carried out the murder, but the dominant narrative implicates Persico and his associates. This event cemented Persico's reputation as a man willing to commit extreme acts of violence to climb the mafia ranks. In addition to the assassination of Anastasia, Persico's actions and brutal methods continued to shape his legacy within the criminal underworld. The 1950s were tumultuous for Carmine Persico, who was arrested more than a dozen times but released within a few days on each occasion, as most of his offenses were common crimes. During this period, he also cemented his ties with the Gallo brothers, Albert, Larry, and Joe, who were also part of the Profaci family. By the late 1950s, Frank Abbatemarco, who had recruited Persico, became a problem for Joseph Profaci, the head of the Profaci family. Defiant and confident in his own position, Abbatemarco refused to pay the monthly tribute that Profaci demanded from all his soldiers. This rebellion was not only a direct act of defiance, but also threatened Profaci's power and control structure. The Gallo brothers began to align with Abbatemarco, supposedly encouraged by family heads Carlo Gambino and Tommy Lucchese, and they also managed to draw Carmine Persico into their fold. These alliances provided Abbatemarco with the support that marked the beginning of an escalation towards open confrontation, the First Family War. Also known as the First Colombo War, it erupted between two factions, those who supported Joseph Profaci and his critics. The war intensified and reached a critical point in November 1959 when Abbatemarco was shot dead, allegedly on the direct orders of Joseph Profaci. His death removed a significant rebel and escalated the violence between the rival factions. By 1961, the war had taken on a new dimension. Joseph Profaci seized several lucrative businesses that had been managed by Abbatemarco from the Gallo brothers. This act motivated them to carry out a daring kidnapping. They captured 4 key men of Profaci: underboss Joseph Magliocco, Frank Profaci, Joe Profaci's brother, Capo Salvatore Musacchia, and soldier John Simone. This surprise attack left the Profici organization reeling while their leader managed to escape to Florida. Meanwhile, Profici's consigliere embarked on negotiations with the gallows to secure the peaceful release of the captives. Eventually, they were indeed released. Although his precise role during these moments is unclear, Carmine Persico was likely involved in the strategic moves leading to the kidnapping and the subsequent negotiations. By then, he was already a central figure in the organization. His leadership ability and relentless execution of his duties ensured him a prominent place in the mafia hierarchy. Despite signing a peace agreement, Joseph Profici betrayed the gallows and, in August 1961, ordered the assassination of two prominent members of the Gallo faction, Joseph Joe Jelly Gioielli and Larry Gallo. Gioielli was murdered by gunmen after being invited to fish at Sheepshead Bay, while Larry Gallo survived an attempted strangulation at the Sahara Club in East Flatbush. Carmine Persico and Salvatore D'Ambrosio were involved in this assassination attempt, but the intervention of a police officer prevented its success. Indeed, Persico betrayed the gallows and was charged with attempted murder, but the charges were dropped when Joe Gallo refused to testify. For this sudden and cunning betrayal, our protagonist earned the nickname the Snake from the Gallows, who said his positions and loyalties were as slippery as the reptile. The natural death of Joseph Profici in June 1962 did not stop the war. Joseph Magliocco assumed leadership of the family, but the violence continued. In 1963, Persico faced a series of violent events that marked his life. First, he survived a car bomb attack, a clear sign of the dangerous enemies he had made. Despite the explosion, he emerged unscathed, proving difficult to eliminate. In May of the same year, the Gallo brothers faction launched a direct attack on him in Brooklyn. During this ambush, he was severely injured when a truck stopped next to his car and two men opened fire, shooting him in the face, hand, and shoulder. However, he survived. It is said that after being shot in the face, he spat out the bullet that had penetrated him. This anecdote, though it may seem exaggerated, became part of his legend. Soon after these violent events, he was imprisoned on extortion charges. This incarceration wasn't surprising, given his history of criminal activities and constant surveillance by law enforcement. Despite being behind bars, his influence within the criminal family did not diminish. By the year's end, Magliocco retired after a failed attempt to seize control of the commission, and Joseph Colombo replaced him. Colombo, who had alerted the commission about Magliocco's plot, became the new head of the family, now known as the Colombo crime family. As a gesture of gratitude for his loyalty during the Colombo War, Colombo appointed Persico as a captain, securing his position within the new criminal organization. After his appointment, Persico remained active on the streets of New York, engaging in a variety of criminal activities, including labor racketeering, extortion, loan sharking, kidnapping, illegal gambling, and more. In the late 1960s, under Persico's leadership, his crew became one of the most profitable within the Colombo crime family. By 1968, however, he faced federal charges again, this time for kidnapping. He was ultimately sent to prison, where he would spend 8 years. During his trial, former mobster Joseph Valachi testified, a significant event, as Valachi was known for being the first mafioso to break the mafia's code of silence by becoming a federal informant, a betrayal that shook the organization. Meanwhile, in February 1971, Joe Gallo had been released from prison. In June, Joseph Colombo was shot and critically wounded during the second annual rally of the Italian-American Civil Rights League in Manhattan, marking the start of the Second Colombo War. The shooter, Jerome Johnson, a former convict, was immediately gunned down by Colombo's bodyguards. Although Colombo survived, he was left paralyzed. Until his death on May 22, 1978, the Mafia believed Joe Gallo had orchestrated the attack due to his recent release and betrayal of the Colombo family. However, police concluded that Jerome Johnson had acted alone. By the end of the year, Persico was tried in a state court on 37 charges related to extortion, loan sharking, coercion, and conspiracy, all stemming from a loan sharking operation at a Manhattan fur store. On December 8th, a jury acquitted him of all charges when none of the 12 prosecution witnesses could identify him. After Colombo's shooting, underboss Joseph Iacovelli assumed the role of acting boss, seeking revenge. Albert Gallo sent a hitman from Las Vegas to a restaurant where Iacovelli, Alphonse Persico, and Gennaro Langella were dining. However, the hitman failed to recognize the mobsters and instead shot 4 innocent diners, killing 2 of them. This botched assassination attempt led Iacovelli to flee New York, leaving Carmine Persico as the new boss of the family. On April 7, 1972, Carmine Persico wasted no time in orchestrating the elimination of the Gallo brothers. Joe Gallo was gunned down by Persico's gunman while celebrating his birthday at a restaurant in Little Italy. This decisive blow removed one of Persico's main adversaries and further solidified his control over the Colombo family. Gallo's death marked the end of a turbulent era for the family and the beginning of a new phase under Persico's relentless leadership. His ability to survive and thrive amidst such violence and betrayal cemented his reputation as one of the most feared and respected mobsters of his time. In 1973, Persico was imprisoned on charges of kidnapping and loan sharking, receiving an 8-year sentence. Before his incarceration, he took steps to ensure his power within the Colombo family remained intact. Supported by Langella, who assumed the role of underboss, and his other brother, Theodore Persico, Langella oversaw various corrupt family businesses, including control over several unions, ensuring the Colombo interests remained protected and profitable during Carmine's absence. In 1979, after serving his sentence, Carmine Persico was released from prison and wasted no time in reassuming leadership of the Colombo crime family. His release marked the beginning of a new era, characterized by firm control and shrewd strategies. Despite facing constant threats and subsequent incarcerations in the following years, he maintained his dominance over the Colombo family, proving himself a powerful and feared figure in the New York criminal world. In November 1981, while detained, Persico was convicted of additional charges of conspiracy and extortion, adding 5 years to his sentence. Nevertheless, even from behind bars, he continued to steer the family's business with an iron fist. By October 1984, Carmine Persico and other leaders of the Colombo crime family were indicted on multiple charges of organized crime in what became known as the Colombo trial. Upon the indictment's release, Persico decided to go into hiding. On October 26th, the FBI launched a nationwide campaign to apprehend him, soon adding him to their infamous 10 Most Wanted list. Persico hid at his cousin Fred DeChristopher's house in Hempstead, New York, unaware that DeChristopher had been feeding information to the FBI for the past 2 years. Caught in an undercover operation, De Christopher revealed Persico's whereabouts to the FBI, who then staged a fake manhunt to protect their key informant. He was finally arrested on February 15, 1985. In July, Persico pleaded not guilty, along with 11 other New York Mafia leaders, facing a second set of organized crime charges in the so-called Mafia Commission trial. Prosecutors aimed to strike all crime families simultaneously, leveraging their involvement in the commission to dismantle leadership. As an interesting fact, during these trials, Carmine decided to act as his own attorney, believing his extensive criminal record provided enough material to defend himself. The other defendants disagreed, but he persisted. The trial revealed tales of betrayal and extreme violence. On November 17, 1986, Carmine was sentenced to 39 years in prison for his involvement in organized crime, kidnapping, loan sharking, and other offenses related to his leadership in the Colombo family. The judge who delivered the sentence praised his performance as his own lawyer, stating, "Mr. Persico, you are a tragedy. You are one of the smartest people I have ever seen in my life." Early the following year, the judge increased the sentence to 100 years, to be served concurrently with the previous 39 years. Aware that he would likely die in prison, Carmine began planning for the future of the Colombo family and the continuity of his legacy, ensuring that his share of the business would continue to benefit his relatives, naming his brother Alphonse Ali Boy as acting boss. However, Ali Boy was arrested shortly after for loan sharking and was unable to make bail. In response, Persico established a three-man panel to lead the family, but dissolved it in 1988 and appointed Victor Orena as interim boss. Although Orena had the authority to admit members and order hits, the incarcerated boss made it clear that he was only a temporary replacement until his son could assume leadership upon release from prison. By 1991, Orena grew frustrated with the leadership situation and constant orders from prison. Moreover, he was unwilling to relinquish control of the family to Persico's son. Realizing this, Orena decided in the spring of that year to solidify his position as boss in his own right. He asked Consigliere Carmine Sessa to conduct a survey among the family's capos to gauge their support. However, Sessa informed Persico of the plot. Enraged and vengeful, Persico ordered Sessa to lead a team to eliminate Orena. On June 20th, a team of men approached Orena near his residence in Long Island, but Orena recognized them in the car and managed to escape. In the following months, factions loyal to Persico and Orena attempted to negotiate peace with the mediation of the Commission. Although the Commission recognized Persico as the legitimate boss, they chose not to directly intervene in the internal conflict of the Colombo family. On November 18th of the same year, the Third Colombo War erupted when William Cutolo, Orena's lieutenant, sent a team of assassins to attempt to kill Gregory Scarpa, a loyalist to Carmine, known for his brutality and ruthlessness in committing murders. This assassination attempt marked the beginning of a violent conflict between factions vying for control of the family, which lasted approximately 2 more years. Both sides exchanged multiple attacks, plunging the Colombo family into chaos. The unleashed violence prompted a strong response from law enforcement, who allocated significant resources to combat the killings and pursue members of the Colombo family mafia. This effort resulted in 68 indictments, 58 convictions, and 10 mafia members turning state witnesses, significantly weakening the family organization. By the end of 1992, Orena was convicted of organized crime and murder, receiving a life sentence. His conviction dismantled the belligerent faction he led, allowing the Persicos to regain absolute control of the Colombo family. From prison, Carmine Persico reaffirmed his dominance and leadership over one of New York's most infamous mafia families. Following the end of the war with Orina, Persico had to restructure the family leadership as his son faced new legal charges. He formed a governing committee, including his brother Theodore, mobster Joseph Baudanza, and Joseph Tomasello. In 1994, following Andrew Russo's release from prison, Carmine Persico dissolved the committee and appointed Russo as acting boss of the Colombo family. Russo, a trusted cousin and long-standing associate, had previously served as interim underboss of the family until the mid-1970s. However, Russo's return to prison in 1996 necessitated Persico to appoint his own son, who had recently been released from incarceration, as interim boss in early 1999. As his son faced renewed legal challenges, Persico then turned to Joel Cacace, appointing him as acting boss. Cacace had demonstrated unwavering loyalty during the turbulent Third Colombo War, aiding Persico in maintaining control over the family amidst internal strife. By 2001, Carmine Persico was transferred to the Federal Correctional Complex in Butner, North Carolina, a medium security facility. In 2006, additional members of the Colombo family faced charges ranging from usury and extortion to 3 murders dating back to the Colombo Wars. During the early 2000s, several acting bosses oversaw the Colombo family, including his son, Alphonse Persico, and again, Andrew Russo. Throughout the 2010s, other members of the Colombo family faced accusations and imprisonment, while their official boss remained incarcerated. Carmine Persico, in his 80s and having survived numerous assassination attempts, served a 33-year federal prison sentence from 1986 until his death. Due to the length of his sentence, he had several years left to serve at the time of his passing. Finally, Carmine Persico, known as the Snake, passed away on March 7, 2019. At the time of his passing, Carmine Persico was 85 years old, confirmed by his lawyer, although the exact cause of death was not specified. With his death, his son could not maintain his father's status and was sidelined within the criminal organization. Andrew Russo became the new official boss of the Colombo family. If the web of betrayal and violence surrounding Carmine Persico has captured your interest, then you shouldn't miss the story of his predecessor, Joseph Colombo, the man who influenced the making of The Godfather. If you found this story intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more gripping tales from history's underworld. Stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you for watching.